Almost Canon.
And actually, I guess I just say before we really get going, you want to
Mhm.
introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Daniel. Go by Dano. I'm the host of the Cryptid Podcast. I can be heard on Spotify and on YouTube and other major podcasting platforms. I've been doing this since my first episode dropped November of 2024. I've had multiple cryptid encounters with only Bigfoot, so to speak. Um, and I've had a crawler encounter when I was right before my senior year of high school, but I've only had two sightings of Bigfoot, one when I was 12, and then the second one when I was 19. First one was in Washington State, Graham, Washington. The second one was in New Jersey. Had a bunch of paranormal encounters. So yeah, I'm here to hang out here with Nick and Christian.
Yeah, well, if you want to start with the encounter you had in high school with this crawler,
Hmm.
we should start there because I got an interesting story I want to run by you
Hmm.
of someone who emailed me way back when, but it sounds very similar to something that to what I've at least heard of your encounter.
Okay, sure. So, my junior year of high school, I was a screw up. I failed a couple of classes, and I was pretty much just told by the guidance counselor that I was not going to graduate on time unless I did summer school or, whatever. And I was like, I'm not doing summer school. So I just told my dad, I was like, Dad, I'm going to move back to Tennessee. Um, I'm going to graduate and then I'll come back. I said, nothing against you or anything like that. I says, You're amazing. I want to graduate with my class. I know I screwed up, but so I moved back to Tennessee with my mom, found out I only needed 2 credits to graduate. Uh, I went to the same high school when I was a freshman and made some really good friends that freshman year, reconnected with one of them and actually a couple of them. And this one, I'm gonna call him Kevin. I'm not gonna divulge his name. His dad, I call him Mr. Eddie. Um, they no longer own the property. Um, Kevin lives in Tennessee still, as far as I know. Mr. Eddie, if he's still around, last I heard was down in Florida. So down south, when you make a really good friend, it's like their family is your family. If their parents take a liking to you, you're part of the family. And that's exactly what Mr. Eddie and his wife did. I'll call her Miss Charlotte. And they were very, very welcoming for me to come into their home. And it was to the point where I could pretty much just walk in the front door and just be welcomed like I lived there my whole life.
Oh yeah.
So when I come back, I reconnect, let him know I'm back in town. I go over. His dad, kind of gives me a hard time, just kind of clowning me. And I we made plans to hang out. I was going to spend the night over there. Um, One thing we loved doing was ride mini bikes. Now they had a huge farm, soybeans, stuff like that. He had different grow fields, and he never would allow anybody to drive through the backyard. He had a backyard was like almost like a golf course. It was immaculate. He had a little access road that came kind of off of the driveway that went down alongside of the backyard. They kind of turned to the left and went across the tree line, and then there was a big opening that went into the woods. There's about a 20-acre swath of woods before you go to the grow, the where they grew all those soybeans and things like that. So it was just like a big trail that went right through these woods out to where you grew all these crops. And in those woods, there was like an old house, old farmhouse, possibly late 1800s, early 1900s. Um, and it was pretty much getting overgrown. When I'd been there my freshman year, we'd explored it, and his dad told us stay out of it. It's dangerous. had no windows, had no doors in it. So I come over there this Friday night, and we're hanging out, and his dad's, like, your mom and I, we're going somewhere. We're going to this place. We'll be home either later tonight or early tomorrow. And it was probably around noon, 1 o'clock when I went over there. And so me and Kevin, we decided we were gonna ride mini bikes. So we went out to the barn. We gassed them up and we took off. And that whole time, we had just we're having a great time. Visiting other people, just riding everywhere. And it started getting a little late, and we wanted to get back, in time to maybe get some dinner. We didn't want a chance getting, riding through the woods at night because there were no lights on these mini bikes. And so we started heading back. And as we're driving back through the woods, we go and start passing this old house. And Kevin kind of slows down a little bit, and I slowed down. It made me kind of look off to my left. When I looked, I see this person, I think. I see this person kind of standing in the window. Well, Kevin gasses it, takes off, and he goes out of the woods, turns left, then turns right, goes back up the driveway, and we're going towards the barn, and he just jumps off his mini bike and lets it hit the ground. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So I pull up behind him, I get off the mini bike, and I run up behind him, and we go into the house, and he's looking for his dad. His dad had already left a note, hey, don't screw up, don't call us. If the house is on fire or someone died, that's when you can call us. Don't let the dogs in the house. Don't be stupid, right? So we start goofing off a little bit, and but Kevin's like, man, what do you want to eat? And I said, I don't know, you got chicken sandwiches or something. So he starts making chicken sandwiches, and I'm sitting in the living room. And if you're down south, you guys, you know that the man of the house, he has a chair, and that chair is like his throne. You don't sit in that chair. Even if he's not home, you just don't sit in that chair. Well, I'm sitting in that chair. And I'm not just sitting in the chair. I'm like lounging in the chair. I got my feet over the arms, and I got the TV cranked up, and I'm just clicking, flipping through the channels and doing whatnot. And I'd probably been sitting there for a good 25, 30 minutes. And I start hearing this scratchy noise. Now it was starting to get dark. It was starting to get dark outside. And I'm hearing this scratchy noise. And I'm thinking, because I had everything up so loud, that I might have blown a speaker. I might have blown a speaker in this TV, and I'm like, oh crap, man! If I blew a speaker in this TV, his dad's he's gonna kill me, because Mr. Eddie was a big boy, like 6'8", just massive, massive hands, country boy, super strong, right? So I'm kind of flipping the channels, and I keep hearing the scratches, so I kind of turn it down a little bit, and I don't hear the scratch. I'm like, okay, not a problem. So I turn it up a little bit more, and I start flipping the channels again, and then I start hearing the scratching again. So right over here on the right hand side of me, where I've got my head facing, is an end table, a lamp, and then the windows, right? And I'm hearing this scratching. I'm like, what the heck's going on? So I just mute it. I just push the mute button, and I still hear the scratching. Now the scratching's coming from behind me. I got the lamp on, and when I go and I turn to look, I see this face looking in on the window on me. And I jump up real quick because this face, it's like hellish white gray kind of, huge mouth, no nose really to see, and just huge like black circles with what looked like eyes in it. Okay, I couldn't really see everything because there was kind of a glare with the light, but still I see this face, and I jump off the chair and I start screaming. Kevin comes running. He's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" I'm like freaking out. I'm like, "There's something looking in the window." So he goes and decides he's going to go and look out the window. Well, I'm thinking he's just going to kind of look like this, but he gets right up to the window, and no sooner does he do that, he jumps off the window. He's like, "Holy crap, I saw it. I saw it. I saw it run along the side of the house." He runs in his bedroom and gets out 2 shotguns. We grab some ammo. I'm like, "What are you going to do?" He goes, we're going to go out and see what that thing was." Well, his dogs, he had 3 big old farm dogs, just like 90 to about 110 pounds, each of them, just big old dogs. These dogs knew they were not allowed in the house. These dogs were super mellow for farm dogs. They would only bark if someone came up in the driveway, Coyotes, deer, fox, whatever, those things, they never barked at those things. So, um, so as we're going out, Kevin grabs this flashlight that's on a charger, and the best way I can describe it, it's like a flash, it's like a lunchbox with like a flashlight lens on it. It's got a big battery in it, and I get one of these little like red plastic, you know, C cell batteries that has maybe a a range of like 3 feet in front of you, and it's never bright enough. You can put brand new batteries, and it's never bright enough.
Oh yeah.
And so he gives me that one, and so we go running out the back door, and that's when we hear the dogs barking. The dogs are losing their mind, and we're like, so we're yelling for the dogs, and he turns this light on, and he gets to looking, and we can't even see out towards the tree line. So we start walking through the backyard, and he's still flashing back and forth. Now we see the dogs, and we're calling, "Come on, boys! Come on! Come on! Come on, boys! Come on!" We get right up to the dogs, and we're grabbing their collars, and we're trying to pull them off, and they won't come off. Like they're still facing the tree line. They're barking. Their hair's sticking up on the back of their necks and their back. Their tails are curled up. These dogs are ready to fight. So finally, we start, I think we're getting ready to get these dogs to come back with us. And then we hear like this scream growl type thing. And it was super loud, and it was coming like right in front of us, coming from right in front of us. And I go to turn to Kevin to ask him, man, did you just hear that? And there's no Kevin there. There's no Kevin. There's no dogs. I'm flashing. Now I can kind of see the tree line. I'm flashing and I look, and all I see is Kevin and the dogs taking off towards the house. So I take off sprinting up behind them, and that's when I hear something like coming through the woods. And I don't know what it is. I kind of stop for a second, and it seems like whatever that thing was right outside of the range of my light. And I come flying up behind him. I jump up the stairs. The dogs are trying to pile over themselves to get into the house. Now these dogs know they're not allowed in the house. They hang out in the barn. That's where they're comfortable at. We get into the house, the dogs pile in. We're locking doors, we're pulling drapes, we're pulling shades, we're locking windows. We take Mr. Eddie's chair, we put it up in the stairwell. Because in our mind, we're thinking, okay, if this thing is out there and it can climb a wall or, jump on the roof somehow and coming through a window, this chair in the stairwell is going to stop it from coming down, right? So the whole night until we fell asleep, we were walking around. We were checking windows. We weren't looking out the windows. We were afraid if we looked out a window, it was going to be right there. Finally, we kind of settled down. Next thing I remember, I feel this kick. I get kicked in my foot. And I open my eyes, and there's Mr. Eddie standing over me. It's the next morning. It's like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and he's pissed. He's like, "What the heck?" But he's not saying heck. He's saying all these cuss words. He's like, "What the heck? Why are these effing dogs in here? What the heck's going on? What are you boy?" And like we're freaking out. We're telling what happened last night. We're telling what we saw, you know. And he's like, "Well, where exactly? Where?" So we're telling him everything. He goes outside, goes out the back door, goes outside, walks alongside the house, and he starts looking. And we're watching him through the window, and he turns around really quick, and he just with like purpose, he comes walking back towards the back door, comes in the house, doesn't say a word to us, goes right in his bedroom. You hear him hit the keypad on his gun safe, comes out with his AR, puts magazines in his pockets, and walks out the back door. You see him grab the keys off of the key thing by the back door, and he's like, "Come on, let's go." And we're like, "What do you mean? Come on, let's go." I said, "Let's go." So we just follow him. We have our shotguns with us now. And so I'm standing on the back deck, and Kevin is walking out towards the truck, and his dad goes, "Daniel, get in the bed of the truck." I go, "I'm not going." He's like, "Get your effing A in the bed of the truck. We're going down there." Okay. So I get in the bed of the truck, and he drives down. We go into the woods, and I'm thinking he's gonna kind of stop before he gets to the house so we can walk up towards the house. He pulls his truck, this farm truck, right up to the porch of this house. He gets out and he goes, "Which window?" And all Kevin could do was just point. He goes, "I can't hear you pointing. Which window?" So he asks me, and I tell him the window right to the right of the front door. Now, when you go in this house, you could literally look through the front door and look right through the house out the back door and into where the backyard would have been. You walk in the front door, immediately to your right is a landing and a stairway that goes all the way up to the second floor. It continues through the side of the house and then down to another stairwell that goes down into the kitchen. Okay. There's three bedrooms, I think, if I remember right, three bedrooms upstairs and a bathroom. Then you have your living room, the dining room, and then the kitchen. So Mr. Eddie's walking through all of these, and he uh, he decides that he's going to go all the way into the kitchen. So as he's looking through the rooms and stuff, all of a sudden you hear him start the truck, start the truck, and I see him running through this house. This big old man is running with his cowboy boots on. He's running through the house, and he jumps off the porch and almost lands right next to the truck. Kevin already had the truck started. One of the dogs wandered on down. I'm still in the bed of the truck. Mr. Eddie puts it in gear and tears out of there. Almost hits the dog, but the dog gets out of the way. And now what he does is he drives through his backyard. Something he didn't want anybody riding bicycles through that backyard, but he drove his farm truck right through the backyard up to the house. Gets out. We're looking at the woods to see if anything's coming out of the woods. We don't know what's going on. He's in there for 5, 10 minutes and he's freaking out, running and jumping off of a porch and driving through his backyard, tearing up his backyard, which is like his pride and joy. Goes in, assumes he made a phone call because about 30 minutes later, here comes this 18 wheeler pulling a trailer with an excavator on it. He goes and talks to the truck driver. They unload the excavator. He jumps into the cab of the excavator, takes it down to the woods, and completely levels that house in the woods, and then burns it.
Hmm.
Burns all the rubble. Now, we asked him, what did you see? What did you hear? And he wouldn't talk to us. Now, fast forward, I moved away. I joined the military, got married, had a kid, came home to visit, ran into Kevin. And, we were trying to catch up on some old times. I said, "Hey, man, so you remember that time, when we saw that thing?" He's like, "Yep." He's like, "I don't want to talk about it." I go, "Man, that was a long time ago." He's like, "I know, and I still don't want to talk about it." I says, "Well, what exactly did your dad see?" He's like, "He didn't see nothing, man. But he sure as hell heard something. He heard something, and that's what happened." And to this day, I still don't know what he heard, and I don't know what he saw, but I'm assuming that he may have heard what we saw and what we heard. So that's the story of that rake.
Wow, that's a crazy story.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah, it is.
I wonder,
Well,
like when I hear stories like this, I always wonder. It seemed like this abandoned house was really close to the other house. Like they must have seen this at some other point.
I don't ever recall them ever saying they saw something ever, and it wasn't like super close to the house because you understand the swath of woods at the edge of the backyard. That's like a 20 acre. It's maybe 10 acres wide by 20 acres long. You know, so it's a pretty wide swath of woods before you get to where they grow all the soybeans and things like that. And the backyard was about an acre itself. But did they ever see something? They never let on that they did. They
Hmm.
never let on that they heard anything. But whatever it was, whatever he saw on the side of the house that made him rush back into his house to get his AR and then have us go down there, and then what he saw in that old house, or heard in that old house, I have no clue. I would love to see it, but I know what I saw, I know what I heard, and I never want to see one again.
Yeah, definitely. Rakes and crawlers. There got to be one of the more, I guess, scarier cryptids that's out there. I mean, there's something unnatural about them for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think rakes and pale crawlers are the same thing, just different
Right.
names.
Right.
And a perfect example is Tyler with that 911 call out of North Carolina. It's not
Mm,
human. It's not human. I had him on
right.
my show, and just watching him retell that story, reliving that encounter, even though that encounter was almost 6 years ago. Um, it's terrifying. You can see, exactly. I mean, I have goosebumps right now just even thinking about mine again. I like seriously. I That's probably one story other than the last encounter that I had with a Bigfoot that it's I'll talk about them, but it's kind of hard for me to talk about. So,
Yeah, I mean, I get you there. When I went to my my uncle owned this house up in northern New Hampshire, and it was like half an hour away from where I was going to college, and it just happened to be haunted. And I was staying there, and I just like randomly moved in there one day because it was close to the school, and like so much weird shit happened in that house that it you know within the I when I came back, and then for the next 5 years it would just like I'd tear up just talking about it, like
mhm.
just having to live in the house knowing that it was haunted. There's really nothing that I could do about it. I mean, it was like scary every day.
Yeah. I mean, it puts you back in a mindset. Like I can still, man, I can still see that face. I can still see that face looking right into that window. And I mean, how long had that thing been standing there watching me? And that window was easily about 8 feet up. And I saw like this much from like it's like right below, right above its
Mm,
pectoral muscles. I mean, it was super skinny. Had a huge mouth. Like if this thing opened up its mouth, it looked like it'd probably swallow a volleyball or a basketball. I mean, it was huge. Now, when I first told this story, a lot of people were saying that I saw a gray, and I had no idea what a gray was until,
mm.
oh, it's an alien. But I don't think it was an alien. I really don't. And the way its movement was, again, I just no.
Yeah, no, I doesn't sound like a gray.
I mean, these things right here, if you're armed, man, you just start blasting them. That's what you see. Seriously, a lot of people, they try to like I don't know if you know who Natalie Smearman is or Jim Powell. Guys from like Relic Films and things like that. They were out in the LBL like the very beginning of November of last year, and they had some pretty crazy encounters. And it dealt with dogman, pale crawlers, and Bigfoot. You
Hmm,
know. So, I mean, it's crazy that these things are out there, and I don't think people are seeing them as often as, say, Dogman or Bigfoot. But
right.
I'll tell you right now, if I had to pick between Dogman and a crawler, to run into, I'd pick a Dogman every time. Like for real. That's 100%.
That's interesting. The mouth being so wide, that's very strange because that alone that's unnatural. There's no animal
Hmm.
like Bigfoot. It kind of looks like a person or an ape, or a dog man is like a wolf or whatever. And then you're talking about a crawler with this mouth. There's no physical animal that we know of that is anything like that. Like
Mm-mm.
that is unnatural to begin with.
When people saying that they're demonic, are they? Probably. I don't know. I'm not going to stick around and ask them, you know?
Now, are there any caves in this area?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of at all.
Because it's interesting that it would just show up. Like if they hadn't seen it and then you see it, it's like I don't know, not necessarily migrating, but it's obviously traveling.
Right. Well, I mean, you've heard of like the East Texas Golem, correct?
No.
So there was a hunter. He and a bunch of buddies they leased property. And he really wanted to step up his hunting game, so he went and bought like a thermal scope, like a $5,000-6,000 thermal scope, and he went out to this area that they leased to hunt some hogs. And so he goes out to this area, and it's piney woods and things like that, and underbrush. And he's set up in this area. He's set up against a tree, and he's just kind of chilling. And he like nothing is moving, and he's checking everything out, looking all around with this thermal. Nothing is moving. He's like, "Well, I'm gonna get up and move." So he goes and he moves. He goes and moves like 150,
Mm.
150 yards, away from where he was sitting. And he sets back up and he starts looking, and next thing you know, he sees this something moving through the piney woods, and he's like, "Oh, here we go. They're coming. All right." And he sees this thing, and he's like, "What the heck is that?" And so he's looking at watching this thing through this thermal, and he goes, "It's it's like a naked person. Like,
Oh yeah,
what
I've
the?"
heard this story.
Yeah, where it goes up and starts, it's fixated on the tree, and it starts sniffing the tree, and it goes, help
Yeah.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that see, that's another one. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that, man, because I mean these things they're out there.
Right.
They're in the LBL, Land Between the Lakes. They're
Right.
there. I saw mine in Tennessee. This one's in East Texas. Tyler saw his in North Carolina, you
I
know.
saw I saw what I saw in North Carolina too, and it's except for what I saw had wings, but it reminds me a lot of what you said. The wide mouth. What I saw had a wide mouth, and I had forgotten about the eyes. But I run into another somebody that saw it 20 years prior to me, and he was telling me how black the eyes were, and that's one thing I had forgotten how where the eyes should have been. It was just like these dark pits.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
if demons exist, I would say that would be the closest thing to one I've ever seen in my entire life, and I just have no explanation for it otherwise.
Yeah, me neither. And
Yeah.
that's where, I can't it's hard for me to really even deal with that story in a way, because I like to try to put things in a box, okay, this fits here, this fits here, this fits nowhere. And that's why I have such a hard time with it sometimes. Now, I know, a few years after the whole incident, I mean, I had nightmares, and I had night terrors when I was in the military, because shortly after that, I joined the military, and I remember laying in my bunk and just waking up in a cold sweat, you know, and just having nightmares about that thing. But I didn't let anybody on to, because I didn't want anybody to think I was crazy and then get booted out of the military, you know. So I just kept it to myself, and I never really told this story until um, I was on the confessionals with Tony Merkel. And I told him that story, and all the paranormal stuff. I mean I've pretty much told everything to Tony Merkel, and then Josh Smith from Mysteries Unknown. He's a brother of mine pretty much, and you know I mean I don't know what to do with that story. I really I don't know what it is.
Mm.
People say it's all made up, and it's people are no, it's not made up. It absolutely is not made up. I don't know what it is.
I got a I got an email from someone a while ago. I believe it I believe it was Camp Pendleton
Hmm.
in Virginia. That I might be wrong. It used to be Robert E. Lee. Um
Camp Pendleton's a Marine Corps base.
yeah, so then it's not Pendleton. It's in Virginia. It's a some base in Virginia. I don't know. But
Hmm.
he was in the military, and when he got time off, he had somehow heard about this abandoned house somewhere in the woods. It was like this myth from the area. They called it the Civil War house. Supposedly it had been there since the Civil War, and it's a abandoned house somewhere. And over time, this takes place over like a year. He ends up finding this place, um, and they go in there. Him and a buddy of his, they go in there, and all the just like your house, all the windows were smashed out, blah, everything like that. And they get upstairs and they go into this room, and the room is like, it's not like the other rooms. The window, it's got a window, it's nice. There's a rocking chair in there. Um, and the rocking chair was moving, and then all of a sudden they realize that there's something standing behind the door, and they slowly back out, and when they get down the hallway, it looks over the door. Like, it was tall,
No.
whatever it was tall enough to look over the door. And then the dude that was with the guy who emailed me apparently shot the thing or shot at it. They don't know if they hit it. They left, never went back. They never heard about anyone turning up dead. They were never arrested, so they assumed that it wasn't a person that they had seen. But
Yeah, nope.
definitely reminds me of your story.
Yeah, absolutely not, man. Again, I do not, and let me preface this saying, you guys, one, I have no photo evidence, I have no audio equipment because everything that I've encountered has just been by chance. I've never gone out looking for any of these things. Um, I'm not big on tromping through the woods where all the bugs are and possible snakes and things like that, like copperheads or rattlesnakes. That's just not my bag, guys. It's really not. I mean, when I was younger, heck yeah, let's do it. Let me lay some boots up. Let's put some jeans on. Let's go out looking. I'm 54 years old now, and I learned through life lessons to keep myself out of bad situations by not putting myself in bad situations, you know? So,
Definitely. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm interested in this stuff. Don't
yeah,
necessarily know if I want to go out there and look for it.
yeah,
I kind of do, but then
yeah,
again, I kind of don't, because I don't want to
yep,
get in a situation where um I wish I wasn't there. Like,
yep,
I had my
absolutely.
own Sasquatch, and I think it was a Sasquatch. I didn't actually see anything,
Hmm.
but I was hunting and I heard something. Something was there. It was right there in the woods. It was definitely knew I was there. It was trying to sound like a turkey. It was mimicking a turkey the
Hmm.
entire time. And the closer I got to it, the more it sounded like a grunt and a growl. And then I got to a certain point where there were tree knocks that came from behind me. So there must have been two of them. Uh, and I was like, I had my brother-in-law with me, and he was like 11 years old. He's way younger than my wife. And I was like, I got to get out of here. This is crazy. This is like pure dread. I got to get out of here. There's something wrong going on. And that was the closest I ever came to anything like that. But there was definitely something there, and I don't think it was another hunter.
Yeah.
Because this was private property. There was one other dude who hunted this property, and I actually met him going up the mountain. He was coming down, and he looked scared, and I asked him about it, and he said he was sitting behind a rock, and a bobcat had jumped over him and took off running. So I didn't put this together at the time, but I'm thinking whatever was up there had spooked this bobcat, and it took off. And I don't think it was the bobcat.
That scared him.
No, I don't think it was the bobcat that was in the trees that was making the
Right.
sound either. But
Right. But
yeah.
him coming down, say, you said that it looked like he was, kind of a little
Oh,
off,
right.
you know.
Oh, I never thought of that. I
Yeah,
always thought it was the bobcat.
no. I've seen bobcats in the wild. Bobcats, they see a person, they want to get out of there. I mean, you very rarely will you hear about a bobcat attacking
Mm,
a grown person.
right.
They are skittish by nature. They want to get out of there unless they're super super hungry. And the way that thing probably acted, I bet you that other person that hunted that area actually saw something or heard something. You
Yeah, because
know,
he was coming right out of there, right out of the same spot.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I just read an encounter. I did a live stream last night, and I read an encounter where there was a person on this property over the years. He'd had five like actual encounters, like engaging encounters with this Bigfoot. And one of them was he was up in his deer stand, he was bow hunting, and all of a sudden he hears this thing coming, and he looks, and this thing walks right underneath his tree stand, and then just sits down,
Hmm.
and then gets up a little while later, and then just walks off.
Wow.
And four other times he had seen it, like it was looking for him. He was riding on his four wheeler, the thing stood up and just watched him, and he's like, "Oh, okay," you know. But I mean, there. I think Sasquatch are very, very interesting creatures. Like mine, like the first time I saw one, my dad and I and my little brother, we were coming home late from Tacoma, and it was right around springtime. We were coming back from spring break. We were staying in Tacoma with my aunt and uncle and my cousins. My little brother was in the back of the car sleeping. I was in the front seat, passenger side. My dad was driving. We lived off this gravel road, and the gravel road kind of had like some straightaways and some dips, and it kind of straight out a little, then another little rise, and it would straight out, and then it would dip down again. And when we turned off the paved road onto this gravel road, my dad's headlights kind of came down because when he came off of the gravel road, kind of dipped down, and then it leveled off, and then it kind of a little rise up again. So the headlights I caught like a faint eye shine, like an amberish reddish eye shine way up on this road. And I tell my dad, I go, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" And he's like, "No." I said, "There's an animal up there." He's like, "Oh, it'll move. It'll hear us coming." I said, "Dad, turn your brights on." And my dad had a really nice Mustang, so he put these aftermarket driving lights on it, and he angled them out so he could see both shoulders of the road of this gravel road because we had deer and fox and coyote and porcupines, and he didn't want anything, running into his car. My dad never sped down this gravel road. He drove very, very slowly down the gravel road. He didn't want to kick up rocks on. He didn't want to scrape up his paint job or whatever. And we come back up this rise, and when we do, I see the eye shine again, a lot more clear this time. I go, "Dad, it said it's still there. It hasn't moved." And he's like, "It'll move. It'll hear us. It'll see us. It'll move." Okay, so we go down this little dip. We come back up this rise, and he turns the driving lights on and his bright lights on, and we light the entire area up in front of us. And about 20 to 25 feet in front of us on my side, there's this female Sasquatch kind of hunkered down. She stands up, and I'm like, "Holy crap. I knew it." I'm telling myself, I knew it. I knew they were here because I had seen, years prior, the Patterson Gilman film. And I only thought that they were in Northern California, maybe Oregon, because of where, in conjunction, where the sighting was with Oregon is. I thought maybe they might hang out in Oregon for a little bit. Never up in Washington State. And this is back in 1980, 1984. I was 12
Hmm.
years old. We didn't have the internet, you know.
Right.
And so she just stands up, and I thought she was never going to stop standing up. And she turned at her torso, and she put her hand in front of her face like this, and you could see the hair coming off of her forearm, the black skin on her palm. Saw her breast, saw her face, her brow ridge, her nose was kind of like our nose but bigger, just proportionate with her head. She was about seven, maybe 7.5, 8 feet tall, probably 450, 600 pounds. And I immediately went down into the floorboard of the car, and my dad never sped up. My dad never slowed down. He just kept a very constant, steady speed. And I figured we were already by her. Okay. And so I kind of peeked up and I looked out the passenger side front window. And because the way my dad's lights were angled out, I looked off into the trees and I saw her standing in the trees.
Hmm.
And he pulled into our driveway. I was already opening up the door, jumping out of the car, ran up, jumped up the 4 steps. I completely cleared 4 steps onto the deck that my dad had built. We were living in a fifth wheel because he was going to build a house out on this property. It's 5 acres of land. Unlocked it, ran in the house. I hear my dad come up, puts my little brother to sleep because we slept in the loft area up there. And I just looked at my dad, and I'm like, "Dad, what was that? What was that? What was that? What was that?" And he's like, he wasn't really saying anything. Started grabbing food out of the cupboard, out of the refrigerator. Went out, put it on a table. Went out of the shed, got a ladder, put the ladder up against this pole that he had at the end of the deck because he had a wooden platform up there. because he was going to put a bird feeder up there because he liked to watch birds. And so he hadn't put the bird feeder up there yet. So he puts all this food up on here. He greases the pole, and I'm curious of why he's doing that. And I ask him, I go, Dad, why did you put that stuff on that pole? And he goes, well, I don't want any animals getting that food up there. And I say like, oh, so you mean like raccoons? And my dad's like, yeah, yeah, raccoons, raccoons. So throughout this time I'm watching this, I'm asking, Dad, what was that? Was that, what, is that, what is that? He's like, exactly. It's exactly what you think it is. What you think we saw, we saw. And I'm like, holy crap. So my dad goes out and I'm kind of just shortening the whole story. He goes out back onto the deck to smoke a cigarette, and I hear him talking. So I'm being nosy, and he says something similar to this, like, we saw you. We know you saw us. These are my boys. These are my children. You know, it's just the three of us. We want to build a family. We want to build a home here. We don't mean any disrespect. We're not going to bother you or anything like that. He goes, that up there is for you. Please don't harm my boys. Please don't scare my boys. And I ask him, I go, who are you talking to? Because I was eavesdropping. And he's like, oh, I was praying. I said, well, Dad, I didn't hear you say amen. And he kind of chuckles and he says amen, you know? And so, I'm going to preface this with saying my entire life, I've never known my dad to go to church. I've never heard my dad pray. So I think my dad was out there talking
Mm.
to at least that female, right? So he asked if I wanted to sleep in his bed with him. I'm like, absolutely. So my dad's laying between me and the door, and I'm laying between my dad and the wall of the camper. And my dad had one of those old alarm clocks that had like the big numbers
Yeah.
that would flip, and
Uh,
and behind it had like an amber hue, like a light, and so it would let off some ambient light so you can see those numbers, right? And I remember hearing something very heavy stepping onto the deck. Like,
mm,
when something like massive steps on wood or gets placed on wood, like that wood creaks and cracks, it makes these popping noises. That's what
mhm.
I heard walking onto the deck. And my eyes shot open. And I remember looking at the clock, looking at my dad, and it was like around 1:15 when this happened. And I look at my dad and he puts his finger to his lip. It's like telling me to be quiet. And I hear it step again. And then I hear another step. And then I go to ask my dad a question, and I hear and feel something heavy run right alongside the camper where I had my back up against it. I heard it and I felt it.
Mm.
And then I heard something climbing up onto the deck. And I'm trying to become like a t-shirt on my dad. I'm getting as close to my dad as I possibly can. He's doing everything he can to comfort me. He's like pulling me in close. And then I hear, and again, this is such a bad, rendition, but I hear something like, oh, yeah, I hear like a vocalization. And I bury my face into my dad's shoulder. I know I'm crying because the next thing I know, I wake up and I can see sun peeking through the curtains on the window on the door. I get up and I open up the door and I jump up on the railing and I'm looking around and I can see up on that wooden platform up on the top of that pole, there's no food up there. It's all gone. So I jump off. My dad hears me jump off. He starts yelling at me because I used to do backflips off this railing, and my dad said I'd break my neck. Yeah, I never did. I mean, I landed everything when I was a lot. I mean, I think I weighed 100 pounds when I got into 10th grade, something like that. So I was very athletic when I was younger. And my dad comes out and I go, it's all gone. The food's all gone. The food's all gone. And he's kind of looking and stuff. And I run up to and I'm looking at this pole and I could see where something had grabbed this pole in multiple locations. And I thought that was super cool. But what I thought was cooler is something had taken its finger and just dragged its finger all the way down and then wiped the grease on the railing. Like, ooh, what the heck is that? And they wiped it on the railing.
Hmm.
Um, and then from, that time, that happened during the summer. My dad was supposed to take us fishing on a Saturday. He had to go to work to do inventory. So we were at home doing everything we weren't really supposed to be doing. We were listening to his vinyl records. We had the stereo cranked up super loud. We were eating a bunch of crap we shouldn't have been eating. We were playing video games. We had the door open. And I hear my dad pull up and I hear him slam his car door. Now, my dad never slammed his car door ever. And I hear him yell my full name. And I'm like, oh man, what did I do? I mean, you guys have heard your parents get mad at you and they call you by your full name.
Oh yeah.
Your heart and your stomach exchange places, your butthole puckers to like where you can't even stick a needle into it. You're in trouble. And you're going through your mind on what did I do? What did I do? And that's what I was doing. I'm trying to relive everything I can possibly relive. Like, what did I do? He's so mad at me right now. And he comes up, he goes, "Did you hear me call your name?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you want to tell me what happened to the burn barrel?" I go, "No, what are you talking about? I haven't burned any trash because we didn't have a trash pickup back in the day. We burned our own garbage. And it was a 55-gallon drum that had sand in the bottom of it so it wouldn't blow over or whatever if we had winds come through. And I go, "I don't know what you're talking about." He's like, "Seriously, are you messing with me? What'd you do with the burn barrel?" I go, "I didn't do anything with the burn barrel." So now he's accusing me of something. So now I'm getting ticked off. So now I'm 12. I think I'm grown in a certain way. So I start giving it back to my dad. And he's like, "Get out here right now." And I'm like, "Oh man," he's gritting his teeth. He's using the finger. I am dead. So I go and I follow my dad out to where the burn barrel spot is. And I walk out there and there's no burn barrel. So I asked my dad, I go, "Dad, what happened to the burn barrel?" And he's like, "That's what I'm talking about." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And now we're yelling back and forth. And he's like, "Well, it just didn't get up and walk away." And I go, "Dad, I'm gonna tell you." So prior to my sighting, we had a really bad storm, and it felt like something hit our camper and made our camper tilt and then come back down. And when I opened up a curtain out this little window up in the loft area, a flash of lightning lit up the sky, and I saw something huge walk underneath this tree limb, and then off into the woods. And I swore it was a Bigfoot. I told my dad, he's like, "I didn't see Bigfoot. I was imagining things. It was just the wind." But we had anchor straps that were completely pulled up out of the ground. There was a dent in the side of our camper, and my dad told me to tell my brother if he asked that it was a limb that hit the tree. And my brother had the uncanny ability just to pop up out of nowhere like a ghost. And when my dad said, "Don't tell your brother, you don't want to scare your brother," and he's like,
Don't tell me what.
"Yeah, don't tell me what." And my dad goes, "Oh, a tree limb hit the camper last night." And my brother's like, "Oh, that's what that noise was, right?" So so now he comes out, he hears my dad and I arguing, and my dad and I are looking for the burn barrel, and this is before my brother comes out. And my dad goes away one way. I go for whatever reason. I start walking into the woods where I saw this thing months earlier walk into the woods. And about 30 feet into the woods, I find the burn barrel. And it doesn't look like it was just picked up and placed there. It looks like something threw it into the woods as hard as it could. I yelled at my dad. I'm like, "Dad, I found it." He's like, "You found what?" I go, "What do you think we're looking for? The burn barrel." And he comes over and we move it out. We're arguing now. We move it back into place. It's dented up a little bit. And we're going at it. My brother comes out because he was a peacekeeper. He didn't want to hear us arguing. He's my little brother. He didn't want to see us fighting. And he's like, I'm like, "Dad, I know who did it. That damn Bigfoot did it." And he's like, "You don't need to be saying that. Don't tell your brother anything." And then my brother, like a ghost, just appeared out of nowhere and goes, "Tell me what?" And before my dad could say anything, I said, "A Bigfoot threw the burn barrel in the woods." And my dad slapped the hell out of me. And my brother looked at me and looked at my dad and he goes, "Well, I don't think it was one of the little ones that I saw." And we're like, "Wait, what?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I see two little ones all the time." He goes, "Whenever we're playing music and we put the speakers out on the deck, or if we're out barbecuing, or if we're out goofing off, they like to walk along this part of the tree line and then they sit underneath this tree. And if you don't see them move, you're never going to know they're there." And he goes, "Hey, come here, I'll show you." And he showed us where they would sit up. And you could definitely see that there had been plenty of times that something had sat there, you know? And he goes, "Yeah, I've thrown baseballs and tennis balls into the woods, but they never give them back. They just keep them, you know?" So, when it comes down to it, when we left that property, we had to leave suddenly because my dad was involved in a really, really bad car accident. He was almost killed. And so we had to move in with my aunt and uncle so my dad could go to, get surgery and recover and go through physical therapy and stuff like that. And because he couldn't work for a period of time, he lost the
Mm.
property. So, we didn't go back. This happened in October was the accident. We didn't go back till the following spring. And I'd already taken everything I wanted that I needed. I didn't have a bunch of stuff anyway. So we went back pretty much to clean the camper out because the new owners of the land wanted the camper out of there. And my dad had sold the camper, but the people who were coming to pick it up wanted all the garbage taken out first. So that's what we were doing. And so my aunt, my dad, and my brother were in the house in the camper cleaning up, and I was walking around the camper, and on every single window I saw where it looked like something was trying to look in through the windows, but we had, blinds and curtains pulled so you couldn't see inside. And I think honestly it was the family unit because it was a female. We saw an alpha male. I called him the peaker. Like whenever we were in our treehouse, every once in a while, the whole air around you, the whole energy changed. And it wasn't like, oh, it wasn't dread or anything. It's like, okay, we're being watched. And there have been times I'd kind of peeked out the window of our treehouse, and I'd see something about 70, 70 feet, 75 feet in the woods, kind of like looking around a tree. That once it realized I saw it, it would move its head back and then would kind of look around the other side. And once he noticed I was looking at it again, he'd pull his head back. And we believe that was the father. We think it was a family unit. The mom, the dad, a younger, maybe late teens, early 20-ish child, and then two juveniles. So, but yeah, I mean that's my first sighting.
Wow, that's more than a first sighting. That's incredible story.
Yeah. Dan, what was the color? Could you tell a color? Just
Yeah,
curiously.
yeah, absolutely. So the the female that I saw was like a dark charcoalish gray.
Mm-hmm.
Skin was black. Had no hair on its face, except for maybe kind of around the jawline.
Mm-hmm.
Came around here, but eyes, eyebrows, of course, eyelashes, of course, but nothing on the lips, nothing like around here. The skin that I saw through the hair was black. The skin of the breasts were black. Not a lot of hair on the chest area. Not a lot of hair on the abdomen area, but everywhere else it had a lot of long, like charcoalish gray hair. The big male that we saw that I believe was the alpha male was black. My little brother said that one of the um one of the juveniles that he saw was almost the same color as the mom, like a charcoalish gray, like a dark charcoalish gray. And he said the other one was black as well. He said one of them was as tall as my dad. My dad was 5'7", and he said another one was about as tall as me, and I was about 5 feet, maybe 5'1", 5'2" at the time. And as for the other one, he was a big boy. He was over 8 feet tall, and he was around the same color of his mom, maybe a little bit lighter.
Hmm.
I was just curious. The one I saw, I've only seen one once, which I think I've told both of you about. But That would have been about 20 some years ago now, and but I still remember it, and it was like almost like you described, but I first saw it on all fours, and I thought it was a deer because that's what it reminded me of. It was like a sort of a tawny, like a light brownish gray. I don't know how to describe it other than it reminded me kind of like of a mule deer or
Yep.
just a deer in general, like that kind of coloration, like when they're changing seasons. But the skin, like you said, the skin was black, and you could
Hmm.
see. I never did see its face because it raised up and it flexed its shoulders backwards like it had a hard day, and it started to turn and look over its shoulder like this, but it stopped short of me actually being able to see its face in the lights. But you could see the definition in the chest and the arms, like even though it had long shaggy fur on the arms, it was almost like it was sparse enough to where you could see that it was muscular, that
Oh
it that
yeah.
it had muscle definition, it wasn't a suit for sure.
Hmm.
And it kind of
Absolutely.
reminded me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, the second sighting I had was I was stationed at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and we were doing we had some exercises that we had to do like out in I believe it was the Pine Barrens. And we were out there and we were doing a night patrol and we had like I was on say squad 1. I don't remember exactly what squad I was on, but squad 1, squad 2. Squad 1 was conducting a night patrol and we were supposed to walk to a designated area where squad number 2 was going to kick off an ambush on us. And our instructors were going to then critique us on how we reacted to the ambush, and their instructor was going to critique them on how they kicked the ambush off. I'm walking point, and so I'm about 20 meters ahead of the rest of the squad, and I'm walking along this dirt road, this gravel road, and I'm not on the road. I'm off to the side, kind of in the brush, but not in the brush. Again, night discipline, noise discipline. You want to be as quiet as you possibly can, even though we know we're going to walk into an ambush. Okay. And as I'm walking, it wasn't a full moon. I want to say it was right before the full moon. Um, and I see this thing about 70 meters ahead of me stand up, and it's on the left-hand side of the road. It stands up, and I immediately go down to one knee and I raise my rifle up. Now, we have blanks. It was just an instinct to raise my rifle up because I didn't know what this thing was. It was huge. It just towered above this brush, and this brush is maybe shoulder height to me. And then it ducked back down. And my instructor comes up and he's like, "What the F you doing, Hamilton? We got to get over here and do this. What the hell? You're holding us up." And I go, "Sergeant, I just saw something stand up about 70 meters to the left." And he had these, night vision goggles. He just held them up like this. And it wasn't flare, it wasn't FLIR, it wasn't thermal. It was everything looked green,
Hmm.
ambient light, starlight, that type of stuff, so you can see it. So he's sitting there looking. He's like, "I don't see nothing over there, Hamilton. Get your ass up and move. We gotta go." So I'm like, "Okay." So I hear him hurry back. I get up and I take no more 20, 25 steps tops. And this thing jumps up and like literally jumps one bound in the middle of this road and then a second bound and he's off of the road and he starts hauling ass through the woods. And I hear him taking off. And when I see him come up and land, I immediately drop to the ground and I roll to my right because now I'm trying to get underneath this brush. I'm trying not to make myself a target. This freaked me out. When he took that second leap and off the side of the road, he took off through the woods. About maybe 45 seconds later, my instructor comes running back up. And I hear him coming, and I'm up, and he's like, What are you stopping for again?" I go, "It just jumped across the road. It just jumped across the road." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "It just jumped across the road." And he's like getting in my face, and he's like, "You better lock it up." He's giving me the business. "You didn't see nothing." I go, "I did. I watched it jump across the road." And that's when we hear the automatic fire. We hear the M60 kicking off. We hear M16 shooting. This thing apparently ran right through the ambush point. And so my instructor, he's like, let's go. So noise discipline is completely out the window, and our entire squad is hauling butt to this location. And we get there, and as we're running up, we hear ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. And our instructor, now has a flashlight. Their instructor now has a flashlight. They see us coming. He comes out, and I hear him jawing at each other. Man, you sent somebody to come in and break up this. What were you doing? That's not what we're supposed to. He goes, I didn't send nobody over. He goes, bullshit. You had somebody big come running through here, scared the hell out of a couple of my airmen. I don't know what the hell. He's like, listen, we did. And the whole time, I'm thinking to myself, I told you, I saw something. I heard something. And you could still hear it tearing off through the woods. And I'm like, and that's what that was. We were told not to say anything because we didn't see anything, and I know what I saw, man. And so that was the last time that I had a sighting. So two sightings, 7 years apart, total opposite ends, Washington State and New Jersey.
Hmm.
Would I love to see another one? Absolutely, I would.
What kind of terrain were you in when you seen these different ones? What kind of area were you in exactly?
So the one that I saw in Washington State, we were just in the woods. We lived in the area
Yeah,
that we lived in had tons of forest around us, pine, other indigenous trees. There was like
okay,
one or two other houses in the area, but they weren't close to us.
yeah,
I Google mapped that whole area. I did a Google Earth, and yeah, it's almost all gone.
yeah.
There's no more. And then the training area that we were in, I couldn't really. It was piney woods
Mm,
and you know the road that it jumped across. I don't know if you guys know what a deuce and a half is. It's a 2.5 ton
mhm,
truck. You
yeah,
could have drove two deuce and a halves side by side down this road, and there'd still be room on either side, enough for like a whole squad just march single file down the road without having to worry about getting hit. And this thing
yeah.
literally cleared that that road, that gravel road, one bound in, one bound out.
Mhm. Yeah, I was just curious where I saw that. The end of the road I was on, it was just a bunch of woods, but I call it like a pine barrens. I guess like they do in New Jersey, but it's like a pine grove. But it was like swampy terrain on that end. There's like
Hmm.
farm fields like on the other side of the road, like on the other side in the other state across the line. Um, but the area where I saw it, it was like swampy area with pine trees, and it took there's probably, I'd say between 12 and 15 feet between the edge of the road and the actual pine trees, and it cleared that within 2 or 3 strides. So, I would say it was probably about 7.5 feet if I had to guess.
Yeah,
But it definitely had a much bigger stride than a man did. It was taller than a man was. It's a general rule, and out there
yeah,
it's the kind of place where people don't mess around out there. Because you're a couple miles at least from the nearest house, so somebody's likely to shoot you out there and just leave you laying, as opposed to, especially in the middle of the night. I don't think anybody would be playing like that out
yep.
there.
And I think it's funny, you hear people, they'll say, "Man, you didn't see nothing, blah blah, that would never happen." Go ahead, go out in like the hollers in West Virginia and Kentucky and go up in the Ozarks or up in the Appalachian Mountains and or the Blue Ridge Mountains. Go into some of those very, very, you know, uh, dense wooded areas way out in the middle of nowhere and F
Yeah.
around with the locals and see what happens. I know people that live in hollers in West Virginia. Everybody in that holler, they're all family. They're all related. And if
Hmm.
you're not related to anybody or not good friends with somebody there, and you go up in that holler, you're gonna catch some trouble,
Yep.
whether you want it or not. And that's a fact.
Yeah. It's true. It's very true.
That's weird that your instructors. I guess it's not weird, but I mean, I've not ever been in the military, but I would imagine I've heard tons of stories of this happening,
Hmm.
people training where they come across a Sasquatch in the woods, and I would feel like these instructors would have some sort of idea, or they might have been told from someone higher up, like, there could be something out there, but I guess
Well,
not.
I mean, the whole time we were there in New Jersey, again, I went to Lackland Air Force Base, graduated basic training, went to tech school, graduated tech school, went to M60 apprenticeship school, graduated from that, went to M9, 9 millimeter handgun school, graduated that, then went to Fort Dix, New Jersey for Air Base Ground Defense Level 1 and ground combat training before I all went to my first duty station. But the whole time we were there in New Jersey, we were instructed, we were trained by Army cadre, couple Army Rangers, Air Force, Air Force instructors, Air Force, wilderness instructors and that type of stuff. And the whole time we're out there on bivouac, we go out for like 10 days, 12 days. We're sleeping in tents. We're out in the woods. They would constantly tell us, y'all better be careful. Make sure you don't leave your battle buddy behind because, there's things in these woods, man, that they love preying on little airmen. And, they try to get you, oh, well, there was a story, about 4 classes ago, we had, we went out here you know, we were missing an airman and we've never found him. And you got a bunch of kids, some are 17 years old, are going to basic training, all this training and stuff, during the summer before their senior year of high school. So when they graduate, they just go right off to the first duty assignment. Or, you got these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that never left home. And, their eyes are like this big around. They're like, what? They kidnap airmen, and they try to get you to go snipe hunting. I don't know if you all know what that is. You
Yeah.
know, they tell you here's a paper bag, you tap the back into the paper bag and a bird will come running into the bag and you catch yourself a snipe. And the whole time they're out there trying to get you to do it. I knew what that was. I have cousins, and they're like, Aaron Hamilton, you gonna do some snipe hunting tonight? I go, no, I'm not stupid. I know what you guys try to do. Well, how do you know? And one pulled me, goes, what do you know about snipe hunting? I go, I know that you all are out there trying to F with us. And what are you going to do? Am I going to use a flashlight or am I going to use a stick and I'm going to tap on the back of this paper bag to get this snipe to come running into this bag? He's like, man, he goes, just don't tell anybody, because I knew what it was. It wasn't stupid, But throughout my life, I've been in areas where I've encountered things. You know, I don't know if you want me to get into any paranormal or anything like that. I mean, if you want me to, I will.
Yeah, I mean, let's hear your. It's getting kind of late, but let's hear
Yeah.
your. Let's hear, like, I don't know, your scariest paranormal story.
Okay, so I was stationed at F.E. Warren Air Force Base. It was November of 94. So I was due to re-enlist in January of 95. And so I'm working LE. No, it was 93. Sorry. It was November of 93. Um, I'm working law enforcement augmentee. So law enforcement was short. They needed a person. They pulled me off of my security flight because I was a security specialist. I was a security police officer. So security specialists were the guys that drove around in armored vehicles, had fully automatic machine guns, grenade launchers. Law enforcement, you drove around in a police cruiser, you wrote tickets, you carried a 9 millimeter. Okay, so I was pretty much like a base cop for that. I was police five. I was a relief officer. So all I needed to do was go around. Hey, you guys need a bathroom break? You need some chow? And then I'd have a patrol that I'd have to drive around, check some buildings and things like that. The area that I patrolled
Is
on
this
air.
all on base?
Yep, this is all on base. Um, the area I was patrolling, I had to drive by the cemetery that's on base. Now, Air Force bases are not known to have cemeteries on them. F.E. Warren Air Force Base used to be an old Army fort way back, like in the Buffalo Soldier days, like way back when the expansion west was happening, right? And then over time, it went from like Fort Randall, it went over to F.E. Warren Air Force Base. So as I was driving around the base, I'll never forget. It was either the night right before a full moon, the night of a full moon, or the night after the full moon. But the moon was still high in the air. It was huge. It let off so much light that I didn't even need to have a flashlight. I could have drove around in my cruiser and never have my headlights on. That's how bright it was. Plus there was snow on the ground, so the light from the moon reflecting off the snow, it just lit everything up. And so as I'm driving, I look and I see somebody standing in the cemetery. And this is like 1 o'clock in the morning, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, who in the heck is in the cemetery? Just no. So I just pull over, go around to the back part where the gate is, and I put my cruiser in park. I get out, start walking. I'm walking towards, and I could tell it's a lady. And I get about 25 feet, 25 to 30 feet away from her. And I'm like, ma'am, you can't be out here. I said, it's cold. You can't be out here. The cemetery's closed. You can't be out here. And she doesn't say anything. She's just standing there, and she's standing at this grave. So I take a couple steps more closer to her. Now I'm about 20 feet from her, and I'm like, ma'am, you can't be here. And she turns around, she looks at me, and this is when I notice she's wearing period
Mm.
clothing. And you know what I mean by period clothing?
Yeah.
Like she's
Yeah.
dressed like she's in the like late 1800s, early 1900s. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And I get ready to say something to her, and it feels like I get hit in the face with like something wet.
Yeah.
And it kind of startles me, right? The next thing I know, I hear control, please 5. Please 5, this is control. Radio check. Please 5, radio check. And I'm like, oh. So I reach up, to my shoulder mic, and I go, please 5, all secure. Copy that. Please 5, all secure. Control out. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and I start looking around, and I realize I'm looking up at the sky. And that's when it dawns on me, I'm laying flat on my back. And as I'm laying on my back, I'm like, what the hell happened to me? And so I start doing this mental checklist in my head. Can I move my feet? Can I move my legs? Do I feel pain in my back? Did I slip and fall? What happened? So I I get my wits about me. I roll over. I kind of sit up on my knees. Okay, I'm not feeling any pain. I'm fine. I get up and I'm looking around and I see where I had fallen on the ground. Like I literally must have just fell straight back onto my back, right? And then I start looking around, and that's when I notice the footsteps. That's when I notice the prints. And they're my prints. My prints are the only ones in the snow. There is no other prints anywhere. Not around the grave where this lady was just standing. Nothing. The prints led from my cruiser to where I was on my back. I got back up, slowly walked back to my cruiser, got in, cranked the heat up. And when I reached for the heat to crank that heat up, I noticed the time. Like I was out like 30, 45 minutes.
Shit.
And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I cranked that heat up as high as I possibly could. I could not get warm. So I drove around for the rest of the night. I did not stop moving. I just drove. When it was close to shift change, I went and filled the gas up in the car, went back just when shift change was getting ready to be over, pulled up, my relief came out, we walked around the cruiser, checked everything out, and he looked at me. My relief looked at me, he's like, dude, are you okay? I go, yeah, man, I'm doing good. He's like, man, you don't look good. And I go, no, I see, it's kind of a rough night, man. It's just a really weird night. He's like, seriously, man, are you okay? I'm like, Yeah, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. He's like, all right, man. He goes, well, get some rest. And good thing this was my last night on shift because the next 3 days I was on break. You work 6 on, 3 off. Okay. So I go, I turn everything in, I get in my truck, I go back to my dorm room, get some chow. Before I went to my dorm room, I went to the chow hall, got some breakfast, drank probably 2 or 3 cups of coffee. I still couldn't get this chill out of my body. Walked across the street to my dorm room, stripped off my clothes, turned the shower on, walked into the shower. I had I had the hot water on full blast. I could not get this chill out of my body. Like I was chilled. When they say chilled to the bone, I was legitimately chilled to the bone. I put on multiple pairs of socks. I put on sweatpants, multiple pairs of underwear, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, crawled into bed, covered up with 2 or 3 blankets, had my heat turned on, and for like the next almost 2 days, I could not shake this chill in my body. Now, what do I think it was? I think that this full body apparition of a ghost, like blew through my body. That's what I thought when I felt like that wetness hit me.
Mm.
I think it was her like blowing through my body.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably one of the scariest things I've ever dealt with.
And the missing time.
Yeah. Well, I know where I was at.
Or the knocked out at least. That
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. So that's it, man. I mean, I've had other little small ancillary things like that, but I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but yeah, man. That's pretty it. That's pretty much it.
wow. That's
I
exciting.
had a,
That's
um,
crazy.
I had a story real quick that I was just going to tell you. We were talking about kind of what got us into, the paranormal. And when
Hmm.
I was younger, me and a friend of mine, we were riding bikes on this road that we used to live on, or I lived on. He lived right down the road, a few roads anyway. There was this kid that came riding off the other road, and we didn't recognize him. We thought he was a little strange, like he didn't pay us. We said hey and threw up our hands when he drove by, and he was just humming. He was just weaving. He was driving a bicycle, and he was weaving around back and forth, and he was humming a tune. And so, like, he just ignored us. Like, he just kept his eyes straight, like he didn't hear us. And so we let him go on down the road, and we thought, well, that's kind of rude. And so we decided we were going to chase the guy down, not really do anything, just ask him, why he was being rude, just because we thought it was kind of, we're down here in the South, whatever. And I was ahead of my other friend, and this guy just kept getting a little bit ahead of me. No matter how fast I pedaled, he was just a little bit further ahead of me. And it gives me cold chills thinking about it. It still does.
Hmm.
Um, but when he hit this little rise, and I couldn't have been more than 8 or 10 feet behind him, and I hit that rise right behind him, and then the boy was just gone. There's
Hmm.
nowhere for him to go any direction without him being seen. And it didn't occur to me till later on when I got to looking at the boy. The boy was faded, like he was pale. His eyes were like purplish looking, and his skin was like a pale white color, and he was wearing like a print shirt, but it looked like it was from the 70s, and he was wearing these kind of torn pants. It looked like they were from the 70s. And then
Hmm.
it occurred to me that he was riding a girl's bike from the 60s or 70s. It was like a pink metallic flake
Hmm.
bike. It had a banana seat and had the sissy bar in the back.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
it started to occur to me that I don't think that he was really, I mean, he was there. Obviously, he was there, but I don't think we
Hmm.
saw a real kid that day. And I couldn't have been 8 or 10 years old at the time. And that was the first thing I ever really saw. And that set off my whole journey towards the paranormal, the cryptids, and everything else because it scared me to death at that time, but it also intrigued me.
So
And
when I was in second grade, my mom was married to her third husband, and they worked for a cattle company called J&J Cattle out of Grand Junction, Colorado. And they wanted mom and my stepdad to open a satellite office in Lakeland, Florida. So me and my little brother were living with my mom at the time. And on this property that the company had purchased, it was a huge house. It had like a big pole barn where semi trailers and stuff were. There was area for all that type of stuff to be parked there. But there's also this pretty nice sized pond. And as a kid, this is like right before second grade. I loved fishing. I've been a fisherman my whole life. If I can find a body of water, I'm gonna try to fish it to see if I can get something. So me and my toy poodle, Charlie, we went on down to this pond and I was seeing fish, frogs, turtles. I was like, yes. So I go back and got my fishing gear and I came back down and I'm throwing a line in and I'm just sitting there on the little edge of this pond. And it was a pretty nice sized pond, maybe a quarter of an acre. It was pretty big. And I'm sitting there and I'm fishing and I'm seeing everything. Well, I look up and I see this little girl standing across the pond from me. And so I'm super excited. Here's another little kid. I'm new to the area, and this property bordered an orange grove, citrus grove, orange trees and grapefruit trees. And so I see her and I wave and I stand up, like I was going to go walk around the pond and say hi to her. And she turned around, she went up the little embankment and she ran off into the grove. I'm like, well, okay. So reeled in my line and went back to the house, didn't say nothing. So every day, like legit, Kristen, every single day I was at that pond. And every single day, up until school started. And then every single day I'd see this little girl. Well, eventually we started talking to each other. Her name was Annie. She was the same age as me. And it got to where we were sitting next to each other. We never touched each other. We never held hands, nothing like that. And if she was on my right hand side, my dog Charlie would be on my left hand side. If she was on my left hand side, Charlie would be on my right hand side. That's just that's where he would go. Right. So, after, school started, I'd go out there on the weekends. I wouldn't see her. So one day after school, I hear a knock on the door. And so I answer the door, or I go to answer the door. My mom gets it, and it's this elderly gentleman, and he says, "I'm sorry, I so busy during. I'm your neighbor. I own the orchard, the orange grove over here. And if you and your family would like to have some oranges or grapefruits, or whatever, feel free to go ahead and pick, and go ahead and pick them. Don't worry about it." And I hear him say the grove, like the orange grove, and oh, I said, can that little girl come over? Can your daughter come over and play with me? And he's like, he goes, little girl, what do you mean my daughter? And I go, Annie, her name's Annie. And he goes, oh, you mean my granddaughter? I go, yeah. I go, can she come over? Can she come over and play? And she's like, no, little man, buddy, uh, she went home. And so I'm thinking, oh, she went home because maybe she was just visiting her grandpa, for the summer and that she was now back home with her mom and her dad. I'm like, okay, cool, not a problem. So I just went back into my room, dude, whatever. So we're gonna fast forward years. I'm like in high school now, right? And my mom and I remember we were going through some old photo albums, and we saw a picture of Charlie, a little toy black poodle, and he's carrying this massive stick, and there's this white sand all around him. And I remember that was from the property. And Charlie would carry that stick wherever he'd go, and it was twice the size of him. And I said, Mom, I said, do you remember? I said, remember that house we lived out there in Lakeland, Florida? She's like, yeah. I go, do you remember that little girl, Annie, that I used to talk to? And I said, I wonder what happened to her. She's got to be the same, same grade I'm in. I wonder how she's doing. And my mom, the look on her face just completely changed. And I go, Mom, I go, what's wrong? She's like, son, I don't know how to tell you this, but she goes, Annie died. She passed away. And I go, what?
Crazy. I think
So,
we had a problem with Nick. He's messaged me and said that for some reason, it's not letting him get back on. And it looks
mm,
like it's not recording on my
I'm
end. Now it
on.
was recording.
I'm on now, and it's recording now. But I got booted off when you
Okay.
were telling your story, and then halfway through that one you were just telling,
mhm.
Um,
Yeah. I just want to say that's super weird because I haven't had one single problem with the internet until this is probably nothing at all. But you finished talking about your ghost encounter. I started hearing something behind me
Uh-huh.
walking around, and I've done I did an episode on demons once in here, and then ever since then there's something funky going on in this room, and I think whatever it was affected my computer, but I don't know.
We've done
Maybe
several
not.
interviews and
Probably
never had a
not.
problem with it before.
But yeah, man, it like
S-
something was definitely back there, but it's on now and it's recording.
So,
Maybe
do you
we
want
are
me
bringing it in.
so I don't know where it stopped recording.
Well, it stopped halfway through Christian's story, and then I only heard about you found a picture.
Okay. So, is that where it stopped? Was like where I found the picture?
No, I think it stopped before that.
Okay. So, real quick, my mom and my first stepdad, my mom's third husband, they moved to Florida to open up a satellite company for this company, this trucking company they work for called J&J Cattle. And on this property that the company owned was this like a pond that was about, I don't know, maybe a quarter of an acre. And this was like right before second grade. And so every day I would go to this pond. Well, the first day I went out there, I saw this little girl sitting on the opposite side of the pond. And I got up and waved to her, and I was going to go try to walk around. She got up and ran off into this orange grove, right?
Mm.
So so I go, and every single day I was at this pond fishing, trying to catch frogs, trying to catch turtles, and every day I would see her. Well, over the time of the summer, we eventually started talking to each other, and we would sit next to each other. We never touched, we never held hands. If she was on my right hand side, Charlie, my toy poodle, was on my left hand side, and then vice versa. Well, school started, and I didn't see her anymore. I'd go there during the weekends and hopefully see her, or sometimes after school and hopefully see her, and I never saw her. So I remember hearing a knock at the door, and I was running to go get it. My mom answered the door, and it was this elderly gentleman. And he talked about how he owned the orange groves, and we could have oranges and grapefruits if we wanted, no worries. And I asked him, I said, "Can that little girl, Annie, can she come over and play?" And he goes like, "Oh no, that's my granddaughter. No, she can't. She went home." And I'm like, "Okay, didn't think anything of it. She went home. She's visiting probably, So uh, fast forward to, you know, I'm in high school, and my mom and I were looking through some old pictures, and I find a picture of Charlie carrying this massive stick, and there's this white sand all around him, and that I remember that was the sand that was leading to the pond. It was like a white sand path that led to the pond. And I was talking to my mom about it. I said, "Mom, do you remember that little girl Annie I was talking to?" And she's like, she had this look on her face, and I go, um, what's going on? She's like, son, honey, I don't know how to tell you this, but Annie passed away. And I go, oh man, that sucks. What do you mean? What do you mean she passed away? How'd she pass away? She's like, honey, she drowned. And I go, what do you mean? And she's like, well, she drowned in that pond. And I go, when? She drowned in that pond a year before we moved in. So that whole summer, I get emotional talking about this because I had an amazing time with this little girl. I was just a little boy, and we talked and we laughed and we had conversations. I come to find out that her grandfather, after hearing me say, "Can that little girl, Annie, come and play with me, after school or whatnot," he got a hold of his daughter and his son in law, who lived not far away from him, and told them. And they came over and talked to my mom while I was at school one day. And she told me that they told her the story on how she drowned in the pond, and they were so thankful knowing that she was okay. and oh man, it's just hard to talk about. But the whole summer I was sitting there and talking with a ghost
Hmm.
and had
That,
had I mean, people say scary. I think it was a beautiful moment. I honestly do. I think it was, you know? So that's what that was.
yeah, man, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Basically, to sum up my story real quick, basically it was this kid. Did you get to the part where he ignored us as we spoke to him when he passed by on the bike? Did you get to that part?
No, I only heard
Basically,
you were
me
on
and
the
him were,
street.
yeah, we were riding bikes on the street basically, and this kid passed us from an adjacent road, and we didn't recognize the kid. And we're down here in the South in North Carolina, so we speak to everybody and hold doors, that kind of thing. And we just thought it was kind of rude that he didn't speak to us, you know. So we were going to chase him down, not really do anything, just chase him down, kind of ask him what his problem was, why he was being so unfriendly. We were trying to be nice to him, because we didn't recognize him. We just figured he was a new kid. And I was chasing him down. We were both chasing him down, and I wasn't more than 8 or 10 bike lengths behind him or so, and he had hit this little short rise, and you do lose sight of him for just a second or two, and I literally lost sight of him for maybe 2 seconds, and when I got on the top of that rise, he was just gone, and it occurred to me after the fact that he never acknowledged us at all. He stared straight on. He had his hands up on these high handlebars, and he's just weaving back and forth, and he's humming this tune. He's humming this really weird tune. And it occurred to me that his eyes were purple looking. His skin was pale white. His shirt was like a screen print shirt from like the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. He wore like these maybe like acid washed, like pale jeans that were like ripped that looked like they were from the 70s. And then it occurred to me that he was on a faded bike. It was a girl's bike. It was like metallic pink, but it had a white banana seat and it had like the high sissy bar in the back. So the bike would have been from approximately the late 60s or early 70s too. And his whole image was faded. And at that time, it didn't occur to us. I just thought he was pale. But then when I thought back on it, the bicycle was like it was flat looking. His image, he had really pale skin. His eyes were purple, and it was almost like a time slip. Like he just didn't. It's not like he ignored us when we got to thinking about it. It's like he didn't hear us. It's as if he was on his own plane of existence and going about whatever he was doing. And he didn't acknowledge us at all, and he was just gone, man.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see how you'd get to
That's crazy.
playing with ghosts out of that. That still that blows my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy. I couldn't have been but maybe 8 or 10 at the time, and that was the first thing I really remember seeing. I remember having one experience before that, and I've never said that I was like psychic or anything like that, but I had this one thing happen when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and we used to pick my dad up. My dad had lost his license for a while. We used to take him to work and pick him up, and for some reason, halfway home, I got this feeling that we shouldn't go home, that something was wrong, and this happened several years before seeing the boy. And I kept telling them we don't need to go home. Something's wrong. And I couldn't tell them what was wrong. I didn't know it was wrong, but I just had this nervous feeling. And when we got back, my dad had done kind of got, I guess, where I kept saying something about it. It made him nervous or whatever. So he made us stay in the car, me and my mother, and he went down to check the house. And we never could find anything missing, but our front door was ajar about a foot. And we always made sure to lock our doors and bolt our doors when we left,
Hmm.
and that's those two things that kind of what set me off towards, the paranormal and the cryptids and everything else. Seeing the
Yeah.
boy and having that experience with the house, and then I guess like you said, man, I don't know if it's me or what, but it just seems like it's with me wherever I go, whatever house I move into. Just about I see something almost everywhere. Everywhere,
Yeah.
not everywhere I go, but it's
Well, when we were working from home, I know I worked from home for almost 2.5 years because of the whole COVID thing. And so my wife and my daughter both worked at schools. They were essential personnel at their schools. So where I'm sitting right now, okay, right over here is my daughter's room. Now, this wall that separates us, She's below the living room. I'm below the dining room. The kitchen is like right back here. And then the main hallway goes right where the stairway is, just maybe 5 steps outside this door. It goes all the way down the hallway is my bedroom. Right, literally, if you step out my bedroom and turn immediately to your left is my son's. He lives in Michigan now, but it's like the spare bedroom. Immediate to your right is our bathroom. So I'm sitting down here one day and I'm doing some work. No one's home. It's just me. Got the door open, and I hear someone at a dead run haul ass all the way down the hallway, run around in the living room, run through the dining room, through the kitchen, back down the hallway, and I hear a door slam. And I'm like, what in the F is there? Now, even right now, I have something sitting on my desk, and I'm sure you guys know what I have sitting on my desk. Okay. And Mr. Smith and Mr. Wesson, they're good buddies of mine. And so, I'm like, okay, someone's in the house. So me being prior military, I start tactically sweeping my house and clearing my house. Whole downstairs clear. Upstairs, it's split level house, stairway, entryway, stairway goes up to the main floor. Get to the top stairs, kind of peek to the left, peek down to the right, get up, living room clear, dining room clear, kitchen clear, start going down, turn on the hall light. There are no closed doors. Every single door, spare bedroom, my bedroom, bathroom door, wide open. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? I came back downstairs. I'll be damned. 20 minutes later, I hear the same thing again. And I'm like, I'm telling you, something's about to have a bad day if I can see who's up there messing with me. And again, cleared the whole house. There was nobody in the house. Nobody.
And I've had that same problem, man. Yeah, I've sent Nick a couple videos where we lived at a place last year and we would hear footsteps in the house. My dog would start going crazy. Every once in a while, you would hear a voice. And I've a couple times, I've got several guns, but I usually carry a Colt 1911, and that
Hmm.
was what was laying on the table. And I sent Nick a couple videos from that night. And I grabbed a flashlight. We lived in a fairly big house. It was, I think, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, or 2.5 baths, and I kept the video running. I had a phone stuck in my pocket, and I had a flashlight, and I had that, and I cleared the whole house, and it wasn't a soul there. We're locked up from the inside, and that happened 2 or 3 times at that
Hmm.
spot. We didn't stay there long. We had a
Yep.
lot of weird stuff happen on that property. I think that property itself, was something going on with that, because we see and hear things down in the woods, and all
I mean,
kinds of stuff.
I've had my feet grabbed. I've had my feet squeezed. I felt someone sit on the end of my bed. I felt someone run their hand the complete width of my king size bed. I've heard my nickname whispered in my ear. I was scratched on my back of my calf, and when I like it was on fire. And I went into the bathroom, turned the light on, and I looked, and I had 3 scratches on my calf, on my left calf, and on my left calf, like on the side of it, I have a huge cross. And then on the back side of my calf, near the almost on the inside, I had those 3 scratch marks. It came down like that.
Hmm.
So, but again, I mean, I've had, like I said, I've had a bunch of small little ancillary stuff going on that's happened. So,
I've had a lot of similar experiences too. That sounds like, or fairly similar experiences to that myself.
so, but guys, I mean, that's it. I'm gonna extend an invite to each one of you guys to come onto my show. I want to hear your Bigfoot encounter. Nick, I definitely want to hear your Bigfoot encounter. What I mean, I don't know exactly what it was, but everything in my mind is telling me that you had a Class B encounter. You didn't see it, but you definitely heard it, and
Mm,
especially when it's mimicking things, mimicking
mm.
a turkey or whatever. Yeah, it's definitely. I definitely like to hear about that.
Yeah.
So
I
let me know when you guys are available. If you guys are available this month, that'd be awesome.
I'm always available. My back is messed up, so I don't do too much here lately.
Okay.
So I'm pretty much available whenever, just about.
We'll set something up.
All right.
Nick, you need to get some rest, brother. From what I understand, that you've been go, 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 go.
Yeah, my kids are like knocking at the door. I can hear them.
How old are they?
Oh, I got 3 kids. I got a 12-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
I got three kids too. Let's see, 30, 25, 24, 24, and 23, I see. So 30, 24, 25. My grandkids are 9, 3, and 2.
Wow. Man, that's crazy because you don't look that old.
I get it all the time, dude. All the time. I
I didn't think you were that old either. I thought maybe you were like in your 40s.
nope,
I know you
50.
were talking like 86. I was like, oh, what? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I graduated in 90, man. Graduated 90, was in the military August 1990 to January, actually February of 95. And then did 2 years in the Tennessee Department of Corrections as a correctional officer and an academy instructor. So
Huh. Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, no, I definitely appreciate you working with Christian to get on.
yeah,
This was awesome.
yeah, Christian, thanks for dropping into my live streams, man. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm glad you do, man. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to get my channel going. I got some stuff getting ready to pop off here, and so I need to expand my earning potential on my channel as much as I can. My wife is just notified that the end of June she is not going to have a job because where she works is closing down. So
Oh no.
yeah, so we're going to go from two income household to a one income household. So and
Ugh,
so got to try to make this work even more. So
right. Well, I mean, I've come on to talk about my encounter, but it's not very long. I've got a mimic encounter from when I lived in the house up north, but I've also been doing like 2.5, 3 years worth of research into the Bennington Triangle here in Vermont,
yeah,
and I was interviewed to go on a small town monsters video that they did on it, and that's going to be dropping at the end of this month finally. So
okay,
it's
yeah,
definitely
for
it's
sure, dude.
definitely relevant,
I took a 7 minute interview and turned it into a 38-minute episode.
right? Yeah.
So I just
So
have you think it's not a lot,
right.
but I know there's more to your story than you really realize. You know what I'm saying? Because I
Mm.
I ask the questions that I think other people are going to want to hear. But I'd like to hear about that small town monster thing as well. I've been trying to get someone from Small Town Monsters on my show for a while.
Oh yeah.
Every email I send goes unanswered.
Here, I got a name I can give you really quick.
Let me write it down.
I think I switch my messenger. Hold on. Her name's Heather Moser.
Heather Moser, Mos.
ER.
Okay.
She's the one who she's like I don't even know what she does, but she was the one who set up my interview when they were here, and she was here with them. She got some I think she like actively searches for stories for them. I don't know what the name of her department is, but I
Yeah.
had her on my show. She's pretty I mean, I've never had a problem getting a hold of her, but I've also talked to her before, so maybe that was why.
Real quick, do you have a an email for her by chance?
Maybe I'd have to look back. Let's see.
Or are you talking you have her on Facebook Messenger?
Yeah, I was talking to her on there. I
Okay.
don't know if
I'll reach out to her there then.
yeah, I don't know if I have one.
Okay.
Email, just the
Okay.
messenger.
Yeah. I will
That's the hardest thing is getting your foot in the door, man. When I went on the confessionals, I think it took like 2.5 years before I even got a a call back to see if I wanted to still do the show or not. And then Tony's wife got sick, so that kind of
Yeah.
put it off a little while longer.
Yeah, I was listening. What really got me in to start talking about my encounters? I talked with Wes Germer. I was on Sasquatch Chronicles, and then I emailed him one time, and I go, hey Wes, I said, is there anybody that I can talk to about these paranormal things I got going on? He's like, yeah, Tony Merkel. And so I reached out to Tony Merkel, and he actually video chatted me like 2 or 3 days after I sent him my email. And I'm driving home, and my phone starts going. I'm like, "What the hell?" And holy shit, it's Tony Merkel. I go, "Holy!" And I said, "Holy shit, it's Tony Merkel." And he goes, "Hey, that's me." So when he was driving a truck, 'cause before he started doing this full time. So
I was on there so long, I cut into one of his other interviews about 15 minutes. We kept trying to wrap it up, but it just, like you said, you can turn a small experience into a large experience, with
yeah, yeah.
a good
I was
talk.
I did a two-parter. I did one, and then I did like an after show.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's good
One,
people.
mine ended up being a pay episode.
Yeah, same. Yep. Mine on Sasquatch Chronicles is a membership only.
Yeah.
And the after show, the part two of my show is members only as well. So,
Yeah.
I
but
bombed my interview.
you did what?
I was on that show, and then I totally bombed the interview. I was so nervous. He never aired it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then he aired it. I mean, I don't want to badmouth anyone, but he ended up airing another episode with some random dude about the Bennington Triangle, and he played it off like he had never heard of it before. I was like, dude, I talked to you about that for like 2 hours.
The Bennington Triangle.
That's
Yeah.
fucked up, man.
So what is, just in a real quick, just real quick synopsis, what is the Bennington Triangle?
I mean, have you
Where
heard of the Bridgewater Triangle?
I have.
It's same thing.
Okay,
Missing
I'll look it up.
people, weird things.
Okay. Kind of like the Bermuda Triangle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I've got a whole theory that no one's ever thought of that I think pieces together extraordinarily well. It's crazy. It deals with secret government agencies like chemists, secret laboratories. It's crazy. I'm telling you, it's awesome. Like you're like, what are you talking about? But it makes complete sense. Like there was a dude who lived not that far away who bought this entire mountain. It's not in the Bennington Triangle, but it's right next to it. He bought the entire mountain. He was a world renowned chemist. He worked at uh is that secret top secret laboratory out in I always want to call it Raven Rock, but it's not Raven Rock. It's one of those top secret labs out there, but he literally helped make the atomic bomb.
Okay.
And then he ended up buying this property right when all these people started going missing. And there's a local legend that there's a secret eugenics lab that once existed there in the 50s and 60s, and that it just happened to go out of business right when this dude died. Like some weird shit going on there. But I think it all I think it all kind of revolves around whether you want to call it a Nephilim, or just a giant or an entity. There's some sort of entity that the Abenaki worshipped called Tabaldak. I think he's the one who's kind of like causing the paranormal energy in that area.
Now, dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, I find it fascinating, but I know and I would like to have you come on my show and talk about that as well. But I know another person who would love to have you on his show. His name is Cody, and he's the host of Strange Conspiracies, and that is literally right up his alley.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a couple different shows, but I mean, I've been trying to get my name out there, but I've only been on, I think, 2 other shows.
Yeah.
Kodak.
Yeah,
Kodak.
yep. I've been on Kodaks. Yep.
And
Kodaks of Curiosities. Yep.
Yep. And
That's Rye Show.
Yep. And I forget the other one, but there was one other one, and then the Tony Merkel one. But I was so nervous talking to him. I was like,
Yeah.
and I didn't have headphones. I didn't have a mic or anything set up. He kept asking me if I had headphones, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I think it just ruined it for him.
So I'm gonna tell you guys right now, both of you have my email address. Send me an email when you guys are available. Kristen, you and I know you're more available. I'll hopefully I'll get you see if
Yeah.
I can get you set up maybe this week, if not early next week. Nick, I definitely want you on, but I'm definitely gonna tell my buddy Cody about you. So send me an email so I have your information and so I can give it to him so um he can reach out to you. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, everything you just said to me, I am fascinated by it, and I'm always willing to expand my channel out when it comes to things like that. Because you said like the whole genetics laboratory, things like that. There is rumor that the United States government is creating these creatures, these hybrid creatures like Dogman and things like that. I don't know that for a fact because I've never seen a Dogman. I've never encountered a Dogman. You know,
Hmm.
what are they? Where do they come from? Now, I do not believe that Bigfoot is from the Nephilim. I just don't believe that. What I saw is 100% flesh and blood. I don't believe they can walk through portals. I'm not saying that they can't. I just haven't experienced it. I know people who have experienced it. So, but I'm not going to completely dismiss it, you know. But I know Cody would love to talk to you.
And it's Oak
100%, Nick.
Ridge Labs. That's what it is.
Oak
Sorry,
Ridge
I just
Labs.
thought of it. But yeah, it's Oak Ridge.
Okay.
Hey, Oak Ridge, man. Tony was telling me a story. He met a guard, a guy that works out there, and his wife. And he said a guy had introduced him to the guy, actually to a couple people that ended up working at Oak Ridge, and he ended up meeting two guards and plus one of them's wife. And he said, so what do you guys do out there at Oak Ridge? He said, I was trying to play stupid like I had never heard of Oak Ridge. And he said, everything from stopping terrorism to open up portals in time and space. And so he just didn't really say anything at that time. He thought the guy was just pulling his leg. And then he met the guy's wife, and the guy's wife was like, no, he wasn't joking. Then he met another guard that was a guard for Oak Ridge, and he said the same thing, that they were trying to open a portal to another dimension, and when they finally succeeded in opening some kind of hole up or whatever it was, that some sort of sound came out of whatever they opened up that scared them all so bad that they shut it down and dismantled a lot of what they had going on at that time. Now, whether that's true or not, but he heard it from three separate people. But I find that interesting. Oak Ridge, that's what I was trying to think of. Oak Ridge, Tennessee. It was on the tip of my tongue, but I couldn't
Yep.
bring it to my tongue. But that's
Oh yeah.
exactly it.
And this dude who's connected to the Bennington Triangle, like this, he worked there when they were like first starting all this stuff. So I think he was like deeply connected, and it's crazy. Like he literally bought an entire mountain. He was going to turn it into a ski resort, um, and he built this lodge. They called it the lodge, uh, and then it went abandoned. I think the lab was below the lodge, and then there are these. They call themselves. I think they're called the Cthulhians. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but
Hmm.
it's this. They're these monks, right? Uh, and it's the only order. There's one other order, and they're in France, and this is the only order of these monks in the United States. They take a vow of silence, and before this dude died, he gave all the land to these monks, and they built this charter. It's called the Charter House of Transfiguration, and you can drive up there to the top of the mountain and see it, but you can't actually go to it. So the lab's either underneath that charter house or it's underneath the old lodge.
That's crazy.
Hmm.
Well, all right, guys. I'm gonna roll up out of here. Again, thank you so much for having me on. I truly appreciate it. If you guys have any questions on anything, let me know. Nick, please shoot me an email, and I'll definitely put you in contact with Cody because I know he would love to have you on a show.
Yeah, no, definitely no problem. You just
And
want to shout out your show again before you
yeah,
get
yeah.
off?
You guys, again, it's the Cryptid Podcast. Uh, I release episodes every Wednesday and Friday at 2 p.m. Central. Every Saturday, I do a live stream. I do a series called 50 States of Fear. And what I do is I'm going in alphabetical order and I just go to each state. I look at what cryptids have been known to be seen or folklore regarding cryptids are in that state. And then I talk about that state for about an hour, hour and a half, whatever. And then every Saturday or every morning, Monday through Friday, 6:45 a.m. Central Standard Time, I do a live stream called Mornings with Dano, and we just talk about everything, cryptids, stories, updates, things like that. But yeah, I'm heard on Spotify and YouTube and other, you know, podcasting platforms. And if you guys have had an encounter and you'd like to come on the show, shoot me an email at the Cryptid Podcast 72 at gmail.com.
I'm just gonna shoot you an email really quick, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah, cool. Sounds good. Definitely. That was awesome. You had
Cool.
some killer stories. Like I couldn't.
Thanks, man.
Like your crawler story was incredible, but I couldn't imagine being in a camper at 12 years old or 8 years old or whatever you said, and like having to deal with that. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, 12, man. It was crazy. And again, like I said, on this newest season of Monster Quest, it's on History Channel. Check it out. I'm sure if you go on demand, you'll be able to see it. It's episode 3 on season 5. And I talk
I'll check it
about
out when I get off.
yeah, and if you guys got any questions about that, now they cut down a lot of the actual stories. They cover 2 of them, and these 2 happened before my sighting. So one was like 78, 79 time frame, and another one was like 80, 81 time frame. So I
Yeah,
was,
they did that to Brian from Black Mass Paranormal. He was on Expedition X, and he
yeah,
took them around the woods of Tennessee for 2 days when it was freezing outside. And they made him take his toboggan off because the host was wearing a toboggan, and they didn't want 2 people on camera that was wearing a toboggan. So then they let him on there with his hair looking crazy, and they cut his interview of 2 days down to, I think it was like an interview that lasted, it was like maybe 30 seconds to a minute. They cut that whole 2 days out, the footage of them going to these different places where everything was happening and all that stuff.
yeah.
So they
Well,
have a tendency to do that.
what History Channel did is it's really Nomatica Films, because they have like 5 stories on each episode. So I think mine was like it was well over like an hour, 2 hour interview, but they had to cut it down to like 9 minutes, and I completely understand that because you've got
Yeah.
5, 4 or 5 other stories on each episode. So, but I'm really good friends with Jared, the guy who is like the one of the co-founders of Nomatica Films, plays my dad in my episode. So,
That's
but
cool.
yeah, check it out. Check out my episode. It's episode 3. If you guys have any questions about those 2 stories, let me know. I'll be more than happy to tell you about them.
All right.
All right,
And
fellas.
once again, your email was the Cryptids Podcast 72 at what was it?
Gmail.com. It's the Cryptid Podcast 72 at gmail.com.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
shoot me.
I
Yeah,
appreciate it, guys.
shoot me an email, and I'll respond back, let you know that I got it, and I'll reach out to Cody and tell him about you. And then Christian, you and I will go ahead. We'll work out something and see if I can get you on maybe this week or next week,
Okay. That's
whenever
fine.
you're available, dude.
All right. That's cool.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much. Nick, it's a pleasure talking to you, man.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, go get some rest, man. I can see it, man. You look just wrecked.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired.
I've been there, dude. I've been there.
I gotta go to work. I've been off for a week and I gotta go to work tomorrow.
Get some sleep, dude.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Have a good
Hey,
night.
yep, Kristen, I hope your back
Have a
gets
good
feeling
one,
better,
guys.
brother. Bye, guys.
See
All
ya.
right. Later.
Yep.
Now.
Bye.
Later.
All right. Well, that was exciting.
Yeah.
Those are some pretty crazy stories. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
definitely the Rake stuff, but I was more interested in the Bigfoot encounters he had as a kid. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, that shit's crazy, ain't it? I was interested in the paranormal stuff too, because he never talks about the paranormal. Like, it's just something he just doesn't talk about, like on his channel. And I had a feeling that he believed in it. I wanted to ask him about that, but I understand what he means about drawing it in. When you talk about it too much, I certainly know what he's talking about. So,
Yeah, man, I have no idea what the hell went on with my computer. Like I had one single issue with it, with the internet. Now it's it's saying now I have no internet access out here. Or it says I have it says that the internet's fine, but it's not letting me on anything. So
yeah. Yeah, it's
but
weird. You were talking. I mean, not talking, but you were, switching screens or whatever. And I noticed it went, that I hadn't seen you for a couple minutes, and it switched over and said you're the host or whatever. And I'm like, well, and that's about not long after that, I got a text from you saying that you couldn't get back in.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it had anything to do with the paranormal or not, but I wouldn't doubt it. I
I wouldn't
seriously thought
either.
I heard something walking behind me, but
How old is your house? And not that that
I
matters,
mean
but
it's like 100 years old, but it's not that. It's definitely not the house. It's something to do with that episode I did. I did an episode on demons a while ago, and I never
mhm.
aired it. But I was repeating the names of them over and over and over and over again, and then ever since then, there's just been like weird things have gone on in here.
Man, when I got jerked out of the bed and I started hearing screams outside and just weird things like that. I was translating. I took Latin in school, and I just used to do that, like in the middle of the night, like when I didn't have anything to do. I'd find like different Latin things to translate just for something to do because I was that bored, believe it or not. And I found something one time that was supposed to be like a protection spell or something like that. Not that I cared about that. It was just in Latin, so I was like, I'm gonna translate it. So I started translating it. And like you said, I repeated it a lot as I was translating it,
Mm.
and it turned out that it wasn't a protection thing. It was a invocation spell or whatever you call it, and it was basically, like, I don't really want to get into exactly what it said, but basically it was saying that that people had all the powers of God and demons had all the powers of God, but basically demons had the knowledge that we didn't have. So basically, why ask God for something when you can ask us and get what you want, the type of thing. But it was much more in depth than that, and it was the further you went, the darker it got. And that's when it started for me. That's when the really weird shit started happening, like getting drug out of the bed and shit like that.
Yeah, well, now I'm really freaked out, so I'm gonna get out of here. But I appreciate you setting that up. That was awesome,
Yeah, no problem,
and
man.
and we're gonna have. I mean, look forward to the next. I don't know what to call it. New paranormal news update, or I don't know what to call it yet.
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah,
Y'all can look forward to that because that's gonna be coming up soon. And I still want to do the movie thing. I'm totally
yeah,
into that. I mean, like I said,
yeah,
I don't even listen to paranormal podcasts. I just listen to movie podcasts all day. So I want to do that too. Haven't got around to it. I've been super busy trying to get other things done.
yeah.
And I'm going to be dropping an episode next on Atlantis of the Arctic. So I've
Mm.
been doing research on that. But yeah, I appreciate you
Yeah, I
coming
think.
on, setting all that up.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got 12 stories for when we do that next paranormal update thing. I figured that ought to be plenty for an episode. But
Oh,
I just
good.
cross things. I'm taking them down and taking down notes and stuff. So kind of writing a little bit of a
That's
script.
good because I only got two so far. I haven't really. I usually look them up. Like if I hear something on Instagram or something, Instagram Reels or something, I'll write it down. But I haven't been listening to anything really lately. So, but yeah, I appreciate you setting that up and coming on. But
Yeah, no problem.
I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, me too. We'll go relax and get something to eat and try to lay back.
All right. So
Yeah, we'll be
Daniel
safe out there.
Hamilton, Daniel Hamilton of, I believe his show was called the Cryptid Podcast. Definitely sounds almost canon to me. All right. Peace out.
Later, man.